Coming up on First at 4, we talk to one Eastern Kentucky pastor in Florida as his family rides out powerful Hurricane Ian. And a new warning from the United States Embassy urges Americans to get out of Russia immediately.
Plus, still some more sunshine on the way in the mountains as we head into tomorrow, but changes loom. Details next as Mountain News First at 4 starts right now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, Hurricane Ian is flirting with Category 5 status as it makes landfall on Florida's southwest coast. But officials warn the entire state will feel the impact with torrential rain, catastrophic storm surge, and even tornado threats. And it could affect our weather by the weekend. For the latest, let's check in with meteorologist Evan Hatter. Evan, this
It is indeed. It was moving at 10 miles per hour, now moving at 9 miles per hour, and the wind starting to come down just a little bit. Here's a live look from Wink, one of our CBS affiliates tell me again. Well, you can see they're having some network issues there. Remind me in the booth where that feed was. That was part of the region where it was getting hit by the hurricane. Ian made landfall officially around 3:05 near Cayo Costa, Florida, as a Category 4 hurricane, winds of 150 miles per hour. The shot you just saw was out of Fort Myers, which continues to get battered by Ian. The winds come down to 145. As it's made landfall, it's going to start to weaken a little bit, hopefully eventually into a tropical storm later on tonight. But the problem is a lot of very heavy rain with this storm. There's the satellite and radar view. You can see there's Fort Myers getting the brunt of the eye wall right now, and we'll throw some wind meters on there, and you can see we've already lost the stations in Fort Myers and Naples. They maxed out around 40 miles per hour. Sarasota right now, a sustained wind of 44 miles per hour, so we continue to watch a very dangerous hurricane crossing the state of Florida. Closer to home, well, we've had a few decorator clouds out there, but so far so good. It is a little cool out there today, though. Current readings around the region, you see some of those clouds moving in, some of us struggling to get to 60. Hazards at 59, Pikeville's at 57. London right now at 60, but those clouds are moving in. There's the wide shot around the area, upper 50s and low 60s around the mountains. Go ahead and download that WYMT First Alert weather app. You may not need it next couple of nights, unless, of course, you got outdoor plants with those temperatures getting down into the 40s and eventually the 30s in some spots. But what's left of Ian could make a run at us as we head towards the weekend. Full details on that coming up in a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Evan, thank you. Hurricane Ian is now packing top sustained winds of 145 miles per hour. Just an hour ago, it was 155 miles per hour, making it just shy of a Category 5 storm. Downed power lines from Ian caused a fire and flooding in Naples, Florida, as you see there, as the powerful storm pummeled the state with strong winds and heavy rain. The storm has already damaged neighborhoods, including in Pembroke Pines, north of Miami. In Davie, Florida, residents woke up to downed trees and other debris. More than 2.5 million people were under mandatory evacuation orders, but by law, no one could be forced to leave.
Floridians who have made the decision to shelter in place, to stay indoors, and stay off the roads.
We're also hearing hundreds of thousands are already without power. The National Hurricane Center warned of storm surges, raising the water level more than 12 feet for some coastal areas. There are already reports, as I mentioned, of power outages, and officials from Florida Power and Light warn that people in Ian's path could be without electricity for days. Well, one Eastern Kentucky pastor is in Florida visiting his family in the Tampa Bay area, but as WYMT's Dakota Makers reports, they are taking shelter waiting for the storm to pass.
It just started kicking back up just a few minutes ago.
That was Hazard First Baptist Church pastor Tim Reynolds. During our interview, it was raining outside as Hurricane Ian approached Florida Wednesday morning. He is just north of Tampa in the city of Temple Terrace. He says he is visiting his family.
Got in here on, I think it was last Thursday evening, and had no idea about a hurricane coming this way. And it seemed like on Friday or Saturday, they started reporting that it was heading directly for Tampa.
This is the first time his family in Florida has experienced a hurricane, and now they are hunkering down.
We have just gathered up our extension cords and things to that effect, and we've started the generator, make sure that it works. We put the cars in the garage.
He says his family went to the grocery store Tuesday to stock up on supplies, but now he says most grocery stores are closed.
Schools are closed. About everything's shut down, preparing for this storm. We're expecting it here where we're at around 2 or 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Riding out the storm the best they can. Dakota Makris, WYMT Mountain News.
Of course, it's not going to be quite as bad in the Tampa Bay area as originally feared. They're still going to get plenty of rain, though, and wind. Pastor Reynolds tells us his flight home on Thursday, tomorrow, was canceled. He's hoping they can fly back on Saturday. And coming up tonight at 6, we'll talk to a Hazard native riding this thing out in Fort Myers, which, as you saw earlier, pretty much ground zero for this storm. Hurricane Ian is bringing a full-on blitz, and college football is doing its best to avoid a sack. Several games scheduled to be played in the southern part of the U.S. this week have been moved or adjusted for safety-related concerns and to avoid the expected impacts of Ian. The location of the University of South Florida and East Carolina University game is switching from Tampa to Boca Raton. The kickoff for the University of Florida versus Eastern Washington University game will now take place Sunday at noon instead of Saturday. And South Carolina State University will play the University of South Carolina Thursday night, a game originally planned for Saturday. In other news this afternoon, a new warning for U.S. citizens in Russia comes as there is an escalation of tension between Russia and the West, including a likely act of sabotage on a pipeline carrying natural gas from Russia to Europe. CBS's Natalie Brand has the latest from the White House.
The U.S. Embassy in Russia is warning Americans in the country to depart immediately as the war in Ukraine enters a new phase. The message comes as Russia begins a draft of its citizens. The State Department says dual U.S. citizens could be forced to enlist, with Russia refusing to acknowledge their American citizenship. Satellite images show a growing number of Russians trying to flee, creating long lines of cars waiting to cross the border.
I support all good people standing up in a principled way.
This comes as an investigation is now underway into suspected sabotage of the Nord Stream gas pipelines running from Russia to Germany under the Baltic Sea. Video shows the aftermath of what's believed to be underwater explosions and 3 leaks discovered around the same time.
It is not a coincidence. It was planned, well planned.
The Biden administration's national security advisor Jake Sullivan says the U.S. will support the investigation and will continue work to safeguard Europe's energy security.
Putin has weaponized energy, and we have said this many times before. This just drives home the importance of our efforts to work together to get alternative gas supplies to Europe.
While Russia denies it's behind the leaks, regional security experts say otherwise.
Only one state actor in the Baltic that is where the possibility, the capabilities, and the motivation come together, and that is obviously Russia.
The president of the European Commission says any deliberate disruption of active European energy infrastructure is unacceptable and will lead to the strongest possible response. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
John Kerry, the special envoy for climate, said this morning that there is an environmental impact on the pipeline leaks as well, with a huge amount of methane being released. He says the unburned methane is 20 to 80 times more damaging to the environment than CO2. Coming up on First at 4, we'll show you some ways to limit the damage to your wallet when heading to the grocery store.
Plus, we are staying sunny, at least partly cloudy as we head into tomorrow, but Ian might have something to say about that later this week. The breakdown on the way.